Why is this not going live? All right, we are live. Give me a second to do a couple quick edits. All right. Hang tight. So I'm gonna do a couple quick edits here, and then we'll get going. Get the mic. Hold on one sec. A couple quick updates, and then we're gonna go ahead and start. So we'll give people a few seconds to get here. All right. All right, I think we are good. Let's save those changes. All right, we should be good. Let me just go get this mic up real quick. All right. Hang tight, people, 1 second. All right. All right, let me run through a couple quick announcements before we begin. It's been a few weeks, maybe longer since we've done a live. It's been a minute. It's just been a lot going on, busy, the usual stuff. All right, hold on 1 sec. Gotta send a text. All right, so let me run through a couple quick announcements. Today is the 29th, actually. So tomorrow, I will be posting, for those on Patreon, that are Patreon members, I will be posting the new Patreon content sometime tomorrow, probably more later in the afternoon, evening, because I know tomorrow's the last day of June. I'll also be posting, for those of you who are also participating in the Ozili Dan Tour working, doing the yearly working. I will also be posting July's working. That'll be coming up also probably later that day. We'll get that up too on time for those of you who've been doing it so far the first 6 months of the year. So we will get all that information and all the updated stuff for July up. All right, running a little bit behind this month. Also, just to throw out some of the quick announcements, something I'm going to be doing in August. I'm going to wait till we get more people in the room so I don't have to repeat myself. But just the basic announcements first. If you're interested in a spiritual reading or a spiritual consultation, as you know, I offer various different types of readings: Qabalistic demonic readings, Santa Muerte readings, Egyptian oracle readings, shadow work readings, deity readings. Just shoot me an email. Everything I'm saying is going across the bottom of the screen on the ticker. Just shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com. Please include in your email, as many times as I say this, don't just tell me one day you're available. It doesn't work like that. I wish it did. I wish it was that easy, but it just doesn't work like that. Send me a weekly availability on the time zone you're in, and then I will let you know what I have that works for your schedule. I get a lot of emails from people. They say, "Oh, I want to get a reading Wednesday at 3:00." It doesn't work like that. You have to realize the amount of people that I'm dealing with. I know most of you are not aware of, or some of you may be. It's hard to get to all the emails. Sometimes I miss some of them. Some go into the junk box, and I don't get them, because when you have an email that gets constant emails, sometimes crazy shit happens. So it's not that I'm not getting back to some people on emails. Sometimes I don't see them till later. Some of you guys know I find them in the junk box or see them later, and I reach out to people saying, "Hey, I just saw this." So keep that in mind. So be very, very crystal clear in your email. I always try to look for the reading ones first, because these are customers looking for a service. So I try to get to you guys first, because it gets booked up sometimes. So just please be a little bit more detailed. Send a weekly availability, not just one day you're available, and also the time zone you're in. All right. Also, the dates are set. I actually just reserved the place today for the 7th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference that will take place again October 31st to November 3rd here in Hollywood, Florida, South Fort Lauderdale. Again, for those of you who have been where we've held the event the last few years at Cultural Expressions in Hollywood, you know how close it is to the airport. It's minutes from the airport, surrounded by a variety of different hotels. Some people that have come over the last few years, as I've said, they've gotten Airbnbs. They found better prices on that. Some people don't even rent a car. They Uber it around, because everything is in close proximity. So it's very convenient. We choose that location to try to make it convenient. Now, some people get cars because they want to go see sites and other things. That's fine. But we've had many people come over the last few years where they just Uber it from place to place. So we'll help and assist with that. If you need information on locations, places to stay, shoot me an email. We can throw you some suggestions. If you're not sure of the areas, shoot me an email. I know some people in the past have selected an area and they weren't sure, and they've sent me an email, and some of those areas are not good. So usually it's a telltale sign. If it's super cheap, more than likely it's not in the greatest area. Sometimes it is, but if you're unsure of the area, just shoot me an email. We'll try to help and assist you with that. Try to refer you to the best possible area that you can be in. And again, it's minutes from the airport. So, everything is in that few mile radius range. So very, very easy to get around. We will be signing people up beginning late July. So in a few weeks, we're not too far away from that. We do have people that have reached out for presentations. If you're coming, or you would like to possibly be considered for a presentation, we will have some virtual presenters again this year, but we'll also have live presenters. So we've just started that. Usually we can take about 8 presenters max. So once that fills up, so again, if you want to be considered, can't guarantee you that will get you a spot, but send me an email if you want to be considered to do a presentation. Kind of just in the email include what it is you want to do briefly, and then we can kind of go from there. All right. So Information to sign up will be coming up real soon. Hopefully we can see some more new people physically in person. It's a great event. It'll begin Thursday night, October 31st, which is All Hallows Eve, a sacred night for us as we begin the beginning stages of the year or the cycle into the stages of stasis and darkness. So we'll have a Halloween meet and greet on that night, and then classes and workshops on Friday and Saturday, the 1st and the 2nd, followed by group ritual in the evening, followed by a group dinner. And then Sunday, noon to 4 p.m. will be a question and answer session. All right. So again, hopefully we can see some new people. If you're interested in doing a presentation or you need more information, shoot me an email. Don't forget to check out all of the social media platforms, Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, which we are live now. Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook, which we're live now, and obviously right here on YouTube. Those are the best platforms to keep up with all the announcements, classes, things we got going on. If I'm doing something, it's on there. So that's the best place to keep up to par. If you want to sign up for classes, again, the Patreon page is growing phenomenally. We have a lot of members on the Patreon page. We have a bunch of ongoing classes, pretty much on a multitude of left-hand path occult topics. We have we have Qabalistic sorcery class. We have Luciferian magic and self-mastery. We have Kundalini meditation and awakening class, shadow work classes, Egyptian vampiric class. These are just to name a few. Sith alchemy and dark side philosophy class, esoterical occult Bible study class. These are just to name a few. If you want to see all the ongoing classes that there's new classes added constantly, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, BANITI tier 3. But you can look at the collection section, regardless if you're a member, and you can see all of the ongoing classes right now. You can see the curriculum, what I'm doing, and I gradually add new classes. So it's growing. I mean, there's so many now. It's just, I don't want to add too many because I've already got people swamped and swallowed up by the amount of content and classes. Because I always tell them, make sure if you join, sometimes people are joining, for an example, and the shadow work class, we're 20 classes in. And so it's a lot to catch up on. You'll be busy for years, and it's not even an exaggeration. So if you're looking for a curriculum, a program, something that can definitely take your path to self-mastery to the next level, that's kind of what you want to take a look at. All right. Patreon.com /Baniti, BANITI .com, patreon.com /Baniti tier 3. All right. Also, we went over the 7th annual Journey of the Black Adept Conference, and then the podcasts. Okay. Primordial Cast podcast is available on Spotify, all major podcast platforms. All the links, all the information I said, my contact email, the link for the Patreon page to sign up for classes, the social media platforms, everything is in the description box of this video, and it's going across the ticker. All right. Last thing I want to put out there, and I will put, please remember to hit the like button, share, all that good stuff to get this algorithm pumped up, because as you know, over the last few years, YouTube has seriously controlled and cracked down on algorithms, on stuff they deem that's not mainstream. I don't really talk about mainstream things, so I do know they facilitate my algorithm, which they do that to many folks, not just me. So hit that like button, get the video shared, pumping, so we can get this information out to more. And then the last thing, and I'll repeat this again before we begin, when more people enter the room, maybe in the middle towards the end when I'm finished. In the month of August, I will set a date soon. I'm going to do a 1-day workshop. It's a 4-hour workshop, 4 to 4.5 hours. It's going to be called Black Magic Essentials 101. It's going to be more hands-on. I think something that's effectively needed is techniques, how to create rituals. We're going to talk about certain things in dealing with spirituality and magic, and developing your path to self-mastery, working with different pantheons. It'll be a 1-day workshop. It'll be virtual. It'll be online. You'll be able to sign up. It'll be $50 for the 4-hour seminar, which again, more than likely will be on a Saturday. I'm going to look at the calendar and I'm going to set that. I'm going to try to do 4 of these. As I was thinking about it throughout the year, spread them out, one for each equinox. Just thought it would be a good thing, but take really a good whole day and focus on a particular area of work that's important and needed. All right. So it'll be Black Magic Essentials 101. It's open for anybody to sign up and register. It will be $50. It'll be about a 4 to 4.5 hour seminar. It'll be 2 hours. We'll take a short break, and then it'll be a second half. And it'll be virtual. Anybody who wants to sign up. It is not a Patreon event. It is separate from Patreon. Patreon members would have to sign up for that completely separately. This has nothing to do with Patreon. This is something that I'm doing publicly, that anybody who wants to participate in this particular workshop can sign up for it. All right. So more information as I work on the Patreon stuff for August. I'll have that coming out soon in the next 2 days. Simple way. Again, you can sign up, register, pay through PayPal or Cash App. I'll have that stuff set up soon. Well, I'll have the information, the dates, and people will be able to sign up immediately. All right. All right. Other than that, it's been a minute since we did a live. Vernal blessings, greetings to everybody. I'll get to your comments, questions, concerns in the chat after we kind of open up the topic. Want to get through this evening. Try not to be too long. I know I always say that, but I got on here late. Try to keep it to about maybe an hour and a half or so, depending. Now something changes. You see the title. I think this is important because it's really the essence of the work that we do. Your magical personality and your true Daemon self, which we hear this term, your magical personality, in a lot of different grimoires. A lot of different occult authors and practitioners have talked about it. So there's a connection with your magical personality and your personal Daemon, or your true integrated higher self, for a lack of a better word, whatever you choose to call it. So I want to talk about tonight how they're connected, how they work, and really you're sharpening that understanding with all the ritual work you do and all the hidden gnosis that you uncover about yourself, brings you to the realization of that. All right. As I've said many times before, okay, the most or a super critical part is really understanding how the personal Daemon or the higher self is facilitated throughout your work. So a great simple piece to just give us good foundational things that we'll build on. I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing, but I think this gives there's a section in the Draconian Ritual book by Asenath Mason, book you guys should be very familiar with, that I've always referred to on and off over the last several years. There's a section in here, if you have the book and you want to pull it out and you want to follow along, pull that book out, because I'm going to go through a short section here. I might be jumping around, but I just kind of use this as a reference point. You guys know how I do these live sometimes. It's page, let me find it, Magical Personality, page 147 if you have the book. If you have it on digital, I don't know. Sometimes, again, with the digital format and the paper, sometimes they don't evenly match up. But if you have it and you're following on digital, it's the section Magical Personality. Don't know what page it is on digital. Digital hard copy is page 147. All right. So let's just go through this because there's some great key points in here. There's some good stuff to get us to understand. Then I'm going to build a little bit further and expound. And I want you guys, as we go through this, to kind of, how are you applying this in your magical practice, or are you, right? And in my opinion, in a lot of occult left-hand path work, even when you go back to, even if you started with Thelema and the teachings of Crowley and OTO, he referred to it, as we know, as the holy guardian angel. Even when you get into mainstream religion, right? Catholicism, right? And Christianity, they teach you in the Catholic Church, we all have a guardian angel that walks with us, right? Which is just another concept of that same thing that I'm trying to explain. But I think in the occult and the left-hand path and the path of self-mastery, I think we get to the nitty-gritty of it. We get down to the real meat of it. Like, we remove all the filters and the watered-down bullshit, because a lot of those lesser understandings are more philosophical and religious in nature. And it really comes from this. But let's run through this. All right. The majority of Western initiatory models assume that each human being has a higher essence or higher self, right? In systems such as Thelema, the higher consciousness is called the holy guardian angels. In others, it is the evil genius. In the Draconian tradition, we use the term Daemon, referring to the ancient concept of a spirit regarded as the personal mediator between the worlds and the messengers of the gods. And that's more so what it is. Now, the Daemon aspect, right? And that's why I use that in the title, and that's why it's used in a lot of grimoires. Daemon, as I've said many times before over the years, where religion took that word and came up with the word Demon, demon, and that became completely altered and shifted. But the daemon word is a Greek word that comes from agathodaimon, right? Which just means the genius or the higher self. So I put that out there all the time to break that programming, because people hear that word, no matter if we're spelling it daemon or demon, but they've been indoctrinated already with religion. They don't get it. So we're not talking about, when we're saying the personal daemon, we're not talking about how religious or monotheism describes what a daemon or demon is, because this is something that they kind of shifted and gave this, evil connotation to according to religious ideology, right? The term daemon is similar in its roots to the word demon, but predates the Western understanding of the concept, which stems from the Christian view of evil and demonic spirits, as I just explained. In fact, the word demon has an ancient origin and derives from the Greek daemon, meaning godlike power, fate, or God, or higher genius self, denoting a spirit which in ancient traditions embodied the concept of higher consciousness or the true self-consciousness of the human soul, right? So the daemon is that bridge or gap. When we talk about, say, in Egyptian Heker, when we talk about the Ka and the Ba, the spirit and the soul, the demon is that mediator. As Asenath Mason, the author, says up there earlier, look at the daemon as the mediator between the worlds, the spirit world and your mundane world, the messenger and communicator between the gods, which is your true or higher self. And this is why I've said many times over the years, when you're doing personal daemon work or you're integrating your personal daemon and you activate the personal daemon, now you're able to make that connection or communication with a lot of these gods, goddesses, demons, and spirits that you're trying to work with, right? Because I've also used this concept to get people to see it over the years. Look at the personal daemon. If you got to go back, maybe if you're younger, you may not understand this concept, but I always use the concept of the older cars, right? Before we had all these newer cars, newer technologies with these intricate engines, the older cars that were built from solid steel, they had bigger engines. We were able to get in there and do simple stuff like oil, change your spark plugs, oil changes, your air filter, all the simple things, the basic maintenance things. And there's something that used to be on there called, we have to, when we change the spark plugs, called the distributor cap. And when the distributor cap was bad, it didn't give spark to the spark plugs. And I always use the term over the years, your personal daemon is like that distributor cap on those engines. If it's not giving out the right spark, the engine doesn't start. If your personal daemon isn't activated within, you're not really connecting to the full capability that you're capable to connect. So that's a great terminology, and the way it's explained here in the book as the mediator, right? Now, as you know, when you further explore demonic integration work, say as a book and a work we referred to many times over the last 6-7 years, the Black Ship book, right? There's rituals to personify and manifest the personal daemon. And it can happen in many different forms. Many of you have done that work. You have shared your experience in the classes, etc. Some of you, it's an ongoing work. You haven't quite made that connection yet, and that's fine. But when you do, it really is, quote unquote, what they say, a game changer, because it takes your work, your path, your spirituality to a whole nother level, right? It's that old saying in Hermetic philosophy, know thyself and thou shalt know the gods. Well, this is why I've been telling people for years. If you don't truly know yourself, you really don't know the gods, the goddesses, the demons, and the spirits, because they are activated within you. Not that there's not a, people go say, well, so are they symbolic or is it just, no, no, there's a literal manifestation of it, but you manifest how they appear to you based on your understanding, based on what you have absorbed. You give it shape, life, and form. Because everything, like I've said over the years, that you absorb on a deity is what you're creating it and giving it life. Every image you take in, every information or piece of it you absorb, every class, you're giving shape, life, and form within your subconscious mind of how that deity is going to manifest for you, right? So when there's a lot of aesthetics to it, because there's a lot of stuff written in books, and when people are describing similar experiences, that just tells me they've been influenced by what's out there in mainstream. Like I always use the example of Kali. The image that you see of Kali today, that's not the original image of Kali. Kali means Black Mother, right? So you're seeing more of a Hindu depiction, this bluish Hindu aspect or looking manifestation of Kali. That's something more modern day. When you go back to the ancient Dravidians, who are being called Hindus, right? The ancient Dravidians came from Africa. And you'll see some ancient statues of Kali where she is a dark-skinned Black African woman, right? That's what Kali Ma is, the Black Mother, right? So we have to understand that. So when people always describe Kali as this Hindu-looking goddess, it's not to be judgmental, but that tells me that I think maybe they're just being influenced by mainstream stuff. Now, it's no different, just to give you an example. It's just like when you see Catholics who claim to have seen an apparition of the Virgin Mary. Most of them describe a very similar description. Well, when you're being banged upside the head going to church every Sunday and it's stamped on a stained glass wall or a statue, it's all over the Vatican, it's all over in their books. Of course, through that repetition, the subconscious mind is going to be programmed to see it like that. Okay? That's my point. So what I'm saying in essence is have your own unique experience. I don't see Kali at all like that. I have my own manifestation of Kali, Lucifer, my own manifestation of Lilith. And I've described it's personal, it's subjective. And no, I'm not saying there's one particular way to see, accept, or manifest any of these spirits and demons, because there's not. What I am saying is make sure it is unique and it is your own. I'm not saying there's going to be some similarities, but when it's the same thing all the time, like when the Catholics see the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary, well, it's a little suspect to me. Okay? It's a little suspect. So it is what it is. All right, so let's continue. Okay. A daemon, we're in the second paragraph if you're following. A daemon was a kind of demigod or quasi-divinity of good or evil qualities that could be attached to an individual by means of magical techniques. Through this practice, a person could merge with the essence of the daemon and assume its powers. In Hermetic magic, this spirit was called the daemonian, or sometimes agathodaemon. You'll see that too. And regarded as an intermediary between gods and mankind, being itself an entity neither divine nor mortal, but something in between. According to Plato's Hypnosion, it's interpreted and transported human things to the gods and divine things to people, entreaties and sacrifices from below, and ordinances and requitals from above. In ancient Greece, it was believed that a daemon could be either good and helpful, the agathodaemon, or vicious and evil, the kakodaemon. These good daemons came to be identified with angels or messengers of God. Now, this is where they get that. We've all seen this in movies. We all seen this in books. This is where they get their concept of a good angel and a bad angel. You see all this, the angel wearing all white on the right side is the good angel, and the angel wearing all red with the pitchfork on the left side is the bad angel. What this really is a representation of your will, your mental willpower, because the internal war and the battle that you fight on a daily basis is within, right? So you're always connected to both of these essences or aspects of yourself, which one would label agreeable or bad, or I'm sorry, agreeable or good, or bad or disagreeable or evil, right? And when you're wrestling to make a decision, right, we always use the term, and I always like to refer to the set heru concept. It's that war with the higher and the lower self. Every time you are struggling or wrestling with and exercising your will to make a critical decision, right? It's that battle, that war that takes place within. So that agreeable, disagreeable, bad or good, whatever you want to refer to it as, right? And this is why I did a video not too long ago, and I've said this many, according to that terminology, God and devil, you're just as much as the devil as you are God, and vice versa. Okay? That's the reality of this, right? Because even when you use the term in monotheism, in Christianity and Judaism, Yahweh, you're saying Ra and Tob, agreeable and disagreeable. In that name alone, it's confirming that there's an agreeable and disagreeable nature of God, right? We could see that when we read through the stories, because though these religions might pass, I don't care if it's Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, all these religions might pass their God off as this peaceful, loving God, but they don't acknowledge the bloodthirsty, warmonger, killer God that this God is, okay? And it's not, when I say that religion is all bullshit and bogus, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, which it is, I'm saying that because their God isn't who they think their God is. That's why I'm saying that, okay? It doesn't mean, I'm not saying that there's not a Yahweh, Elah, there's many Yahwehans. I'm not saying that there isn't a Allah. There is, people don't even know the origin of where Allah comes from. Most Muslims don't even know the origin of their God, Allah. They don't even know the origin of the Kaaba and Alat and who occupied the Kaaba before the Muslims so-called took it over. There was a bunch of Yoruba gods in there before they took it over. So when I'm saying it's not real in accordance to how it's being taught to them. Their God is no different than the other many gods that are out there warring for control. That's my point, okay? Because when you read that entire, I don't care if it's the Bible or the Quran, you're constantly being told, I am the greatest God. It's constantly being masked in your head. I have no God beside me. Do not worry. You're constantly being told how great this God is. Out of what? Fear that there are other deities out there just as equal or greater. Why would you have to keep repeating that? If you are the sole creator and controller of everything, quote unquote, in the boundless universes, it makes no sense. So what I'm saying is the way it's been taught, the way people have been programmed is pure bullshit. That's my point. Okay. But anyway, we don't want to turn, we're not discussing that at this point. Let's stay on point. All right. More often, however, daemons were mentioned in a neutral sense as neither good nor evil. And this is more the approach of how we look at it. Because we don't look at the agreeable and disagreeable part of our nature as right or wrong. We just understand it and embrace in its totality. We sum that all up. Because they're vibrational degrees of the same thing. What one is labeling good or bad, that's why you must always go back and understand your 7 Hermetic principle teachings. The doctrine of vibration, the doctrine of polarity. Right? Everything is a vibrational degree of the same thing. They're just vibrating at different frequencies. So when you're perceiving something as bad or good, you're tapping into a certain vibrational degree or polarity of something. That's it. So we look at it more in that aspect. We don't really look at anything, quote unquote, as good or bad. We look at it based on how we have tapped in and perceived that. Because to show you that that's inconsistent, 2 people, 3 people, 4 or 5 people can look at the same thing totally different. Why? Based on their perception and their understanding. And then one person will go, well, they're wrong. That's your perception and understanding. The other person will go, no, they're wrong. And this is what I keep trying to say. Truth is not a reality until you come to the realization of it. A lot of people who think they have the complete, undeniable, infallible truth on something, that's really their perception of it. And then when you point out some inconsistency, just like people can point out many inconsistencies that I say, but I'm saying this is my personal truth that I've come to the reality to. And I'm not telling anybody that watches the channel to accept that. If there's things there that are similar, fine, gravitate towards it. What I am saying is find your truth. That's the point. But people get mad. Look, I'll be a fool to think that everybody that watches my channel is going to agree with what I say. That's foolishness, right? I wouldn't even put myself in a foolish position like that. But people who feel indifferent to what we say on the occult, don't get mad when we don't agree with what you say. And we find loopholes in some of the stuff that you say, and the inconsistencies and the fallacies and the mythology. Okay. It doesn't just go one way, but sometimes that's a hard pill for certain people to swallow. But we're more confident that we stand on more facts, that we stand on definitely something that goes beyond faith and belief, right? When you really understand the path and you study what it is that we're talking about, it supersedes any type of religious dogma, right? All right, but let's continue. They were independent, relatively immortal, and powerful entities, sometimes even viewed as demigods. A Roman equivalent of the daemon was the genius, or the familiar spirit, inherited along genetic lines in the family. One of the most important tasks of contemporary magic was to absorb and unite with the personal daemon. Through this unity, a magician could become a son of a god and exert one's will over the whole universe. Now, something that's mentioned here that's not talked about. Sometimes these spirits are passed down through genealogy, right? Sometimes, as I've said to a lot of you guys before, there's bloodline ancestral spirit, which are your physical bloodline ancestors. And then you've also inherited ancestral spirits, right? Some of you have come to the realization of that in your work. Sometimes you come to this realization, past lives, different reincarnations, etc. All of this is connected. Now, you're going to have to be the one to kind of put those pieces together where you are in the scheme of those things. I can't tell you that, right? Whether, how many times have you been here before, this, that, or the other. You know, there's methods to uncover that, but just right off the gate, no, that's something you're going to have to pursue and do work. But there's a connection there, okay? The medieval view of the concept of the demon, largely influenced by Christian doctrines, was that of a fallen angel, a spirit that was punished by God and exiled from heaven and forced to dwell in the infernal regions for eternity, which is the one side of the story when you read that story, right? These spirits were believed to dwell in darkness, deprived of the highest reward, which is the presence of God and divine light. But they could appear on the earth in the world of man, and they could be summoned by a magician who acted on behalf of God. So here's the question I would have, if this is true, according to Christian theology. Why would God give any magician the permission to activate these so-called demonic spirits? Think how contradictory that is. So for every religious person that has a problem with somebody practicing magic and working with demon spirits and gods, be mad at God, right? Because if that's true, and it's not, but I'm just saying, if that's true, according to religious theology, then God is to blame for all the evil in the world. Okay? Because even when you look in even when you look in the book of Isaiah, the 45th chapter, and you go start with verse 5, 5 to 7, 5 to 8, where it says, I am the Lord your God. I create the light, I create the darkness, I create good, I create evil. I, the Lord God, do all these things. Can't sugarcoat that. I've had people try to dance around that quote. Oh, well, you see, this is no. It's clear as day who's speaking. He says, I am. Right? What did he tell Moses in the burning bush? Who shall I say sent you? I am that I am. Go look at it in the Hebrew. It's clear who's speaking in that quote. Don't dance around it. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't come up with your own interpretation, because that a kindergartner could understand that. So if that is true, I'm just saying, according to religious theology, then that's a problem. Okay. As a Christian or a religious person, you should be highly upset with your God. Okay. Because he's allowing this, if it's true. Okay. All right. Since their angelic faces were deformed by atrocity of sins which they committed against God, this is all religious theology, they became abhorrent and repulsive creatures, hateful and malevolent to man and the beloved creation of God. In draconian philosophy, the daemon is an integral part of the self. So let's, outside of the religious nonsense, and the initiate's task is to absorb and unite this force, making it a powerful expression of our magical personality. So one thing you're doing in your ritual work, you're strengthening and you're connecting and you're developing, look at it this way, your magical personality, right? Now, I'll get into this part another time. That's when it comes to your magical names, right? I told you there's 3, okay, names that you're known by in this world, okay? There's your given name that you might select. It could be your spiritual name, your government name. Even if you get on a path of spirituality and you use a name in that culture, that's the name, your given name, the name that everybody knows you by. Your second name is your name inside the temple in darkness, where the ritual work is done. The only people that know that name are those in that inner circle, in that chamber. That's your spiritual or your ritual name that you're known in the darkness. And we all know how to salute and recognize each other in the darkness. And then there is your sacred name, and I've told you before, which connects to your magical personality. It's not a physical name. It's not a name that is given to you. It is a name, it is a tone and a vibration and a frequency that unlocks your spiritual powers that you start to uncover as you do your work, which integrates everything that I'm talking about here. Okay, it's a tone and a frequency that unlocks your spiritual powers. And as I said before, I've talked about it on and off briefly here and there over the years. There's not a time frame for it. You'll know when it happens. So don't ask, oh, well, when does it happen and how exactly does it happen? And when it's clear cut when it does. That's the best thing I can tell you. You'll know in that moment when it's activated. And that is the sacred name where you're able to astral travel, jump between realms, leave your body. All of those things that some people know are real and some people think are fake because they haven't experienced them. And that's fine. You're entitled to that. You shouldn't accept anything being real if you haven't experienced it, but nobody can tell me that that's not real. It doesn't matter. You don't have to agree with me. I don't care. It's irrelevant. I don't need to prove it to anybody but myself. And I don't try to enforce it on anybody to accept it. You should not accept anything if you haven't confirmed it for self. Let me say it again. You should not accept anything if you have not confirmed it for self. So you might hear me say things over the years that you have not experienced or confirmed, then do not accept them. Okay? Doesn't mean myself and others are not, because we may have experienced that and have gone beyond that understanding, just like many of you watching may have. That's how this works, people. That's how we get to the real realization of what truth really is. Not a dogmatic truth, not a truth that comes from a religious system or it doesn't work. Because anybody that's an intelligent thinker that thinks outside the box is going to smash those systems to smithereens. Okay? It doesn't work like that. Okay? All right. The daemon is the inner voice of the human soul, in negative terms, sometimes viewed as the voice of the devil. In fact, however, it is the union of contradictory elements providing balance and harmony between the bright and dark side of the human nature. All right, I will get to your question. Slim Lewis, thank you for the donation. I just saw it pop up. I will get to your question first. Anybody that does a super chat, that goes to the top. I keep forgetting to say that. You can do a super chat, make a small donation. It goes right to the top. I'm going to do any super chat questions. They get first priority. Okay. So Slim Lewis, I will get to your question most definitely first, as soon as I'm done with this. All right. But this is important here. It is the inner, let me say this again. It is the inner voice of the human soul, in negative terms, sometimes viewed as the voice of the devil. In fact, however, it is the union of contradictory elements providing human balance and harmony between the bright and dark side of the human nature. According to Jung, the self to a large extent in the image of God, or the perfect image of man. However, to be coherent and whole, it cannot have good or angelic aspects only. It should also embrace the demon. The ethical decision should always be left to each man alone. Okay. So the important thing to this, now we also might refer to this as our intuition, inner being. When we hear that inner voice, sometimes your mundane self is trying to make a decision, but there's that intuitive voice you hear speaking within that says, no, this is what you need to do. Now, sometimes we go against that and it creates problems for us, right? This is another way to look at the integrating and the aspect of the personal daemon. People always talk about that. My intuition said, or I got a certain clear inclination at such and such and this and that, right? This is what this is also talking about. And notice, I do like how Jung described this as, don't look at it as good or bad, right? And I've been saying that forever, and many other people have. We don't, that turns it a little spooky and religious, okay? Because even when it's using the term, the voice of the devil, the word devil comes, we know it means adversary, right? So sometimes you have to tap into the adverse self in order to really get the answers to things. Because to be adverse or adversarial to something is to be into opposition of it. And you could be adversarial to something that is incorrect. And that would make it, quote unquote, what somebody who thinks is negative as something positive. So being adverse or an adversarial to something is not just necessarily classified as bad or evil and all that other bullshit. If you see somebody harming an elderly person, wouldn't you want to be adversarial to that? To want to whoop that person's ass? Is that bad or good? Can hate be good or bad? Think about it. You could hate a toothache, right? You could hate somebody who harms children. Is that productive hate or bad hate? And don't give me this religious bullshit, turn the other cheek. That's all that dumbing down shit. Okay? Now that comes later, but remember, prior to that in the Torah, it was eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Right? They don't, no more. That's gone because they say Jesus came and all the man worshiping spooky shit that I don't even want to waste my time with right now. You get my point. Okay? Hate is just another form of emotion. Anger and rage, same thing. They're vibrational frequencies of energies that can be channeled, right? They can be devouring if not utilized correctly. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they can go against you. That's not what I'm saying. But as practicing magicians, we know their vibrational frequencies and energies as we as the magician can manipulate and control and use it in a more beneficial way. That's fact. Anybody that works magic. It's not fact to somebody who doesn't understand the science of magic and how it works. They're going to look at it like, well, I'm taught that rage and anger, that's just bad altogether. Avoid it altogether. That through religious, yeah. Through religious eyes, yeah, I get it. But we're not talking about it in regards to that, right? All right. In a similar way, the concept of as the higher self is seen by the draconian path. The daemon is the merging of the holy guardian angel as it is understood by right-hand path. As I said before, even in Catholicism, they teach you that everybody has a guardian angel that watches over them. They even have in their Catholic prayer books, they have prayers to the guardian angel that you can say every morning you wake up, in the evening, or anytime you want. So the Catholicism acknowledges this concept. And this is where I tell you Catholicism, which is here in the West, is original Christianity. I don't care what anybody says. And anything that merged that came from after that, you're a cult. Okay? Because everybody broke off from the That's the first stat in the West. And I'm not talking about when you go to the Far East, Coptic Christianity and the Eastern Orthodox. That's getting into something else. The Coptic or Coptic Christians, when you go back to Northeast Africa and Egypt, they were the original Christians. And when you look at the Orthodox Eastern practices and spiritual traditions, a little bit different. Both ritualistic, but Catholicism mixed with Roman mythology, because remember, a term they don't really use too more, it's actually called the Roman Catholic Church. In recent years, nobody really calls it that no more. Even when you look at a lot of the billboards of the newer churches that popped up, and some of them have changed it, they just put the Catholic Church on them. A lot of churches that have been around for a while, it'll say Roman Catholic Church. So now you got an infusion of Eastern Orthodox practices with Roman mythology, right? And I don't need to get into all that now. I'm just giving you a brief summary. I've talked about this and gone over this many times before. But they acknowledge the holy guardian angel. They have prayers to the holy guardian angel. And this is why it's very ritualistic in nature. And as I've said before, you don't see Catholics like other denominations going door to door trying to convert people. They're set in their ways. They're not going to change their doctrine. They don't need to. Okay? Not like all these other different Christian groups, sects, and organizations who spend their time evangelizing and recruiting people. The Catholic Church don't need to do that. They got a whole city, their own world within a world. Regardless if you agree with their doctrine or not, it is a staple on this planet, and it's not going to go anywhere. Okay? They don't need to recruit anybody. Yeah, you can get into all the conspiracy theories, and a lot of them, there is some validation to them, but I'm just trying to make a point right now. Okay? That's it. So the holy guardian angel, and look, I remember as a kid the prayer cards and seeing them, and in the Catholic prayer books, clearly seeing the prayers for the holy guardian angel. So that's fact. If you are an ex-Catholic like myself, you probably know what I'm talking about. Maybe if you're not, go research. Then maybe you don't. Okay? So even in monotheism, they acknowledge this concept. Okay? But like everything else, they dumb it down, water it down, and then it doesn't give you its true breakdown and meaning. But I just find this stuff very interesting. Okay? As the right-hand path, with the dark aspect of the human nature, which is associated with the shadow, the evil and negative side of the self. Now, I want to stop for a second. This is why your shadow work is so important. Until you integrate the shadow with this whole concept, and integrating the shadow is dealing with the shadow of the hidden self, the good and the bad of it, right? We don't need to get into, we know what shadow work is, right? You know, I'm big on shadow work. I'm big on getting people to start there. I'm very strong behind the concept that this is one of the first pillars that I believe people should start with on this path. And this is why the shadow work classes have the most amount of classes on the Patreon, 20 and counting, right? Because it's an ongoing process. Yes, there'll be moments where you'll be hard at work doing shadow work. Yes, there'll be periods where you won't be hard at it, where there'll be ebbs and flows in your life where things are going good and there's not much to tap into in certain moments. And then there'll be moments where it shifts back. I'm saying that to say it's never done, because people will email me and say, is shadow work ever complete? No, you don't get up and ever go, oh, I'm done. It's complete. I don't need to do anything anymore. That's not how shadow work works. And if somebody is telling you that bullshit, they don't know what they're talking about. It's an ongoing process that you will do in ebbs and flows throughout the course of your life. No, you won't have to be hard at it unless you got a lot of shit going on. Right? A lot of it's going to be determined about what's going on in your life. So yeah, there might be periods where you're not doing much at all in regards to that. But when stuff changes, shit pops up, you might have to, dig and see what's going on. Okay. So it's continual. It's just going to vary. No, I'm not saying, because some people get misinterpreted. They go, oh, this is something I got to be doing 7 days a week. No, if you're doing that, then something's wrong too. Right? You shouldn't be doing that shit 7 days a week, 20, I mean, then man, you must really got some fucked up shit going on. Okay. All right. I'm almost done. I'm going to get through the rest of this, and then we're almost there. I just think this short section is a great understanding of this. All right. Okay. So associated with the shadow, the evil and negative side of the self, the holy guardian angel is the ideal self, both in the intellectual and structural sense. On the tree of life, it is placed on the level of Tephiroth. The central sephira of this life, it is placed on the level of Tephiroth. The central sephira of this initiatory model. Here, the adept experiences the unity with one's ideal self, which is an important step on the right-hand path, right? That's the Qabalistic tree, or the Kaaba, right? Or the Kaaba, or the Kabbalah, however you want to pronounce it. Right. And we know the clip path, or the dark tree, is the antithesis to that. That's things on the other side, beyond physical existence, in the void, in the darkness, the abyss, where all things manifested from. Right. Even if you look at the Kabbalah or the Kabbalah from religious or ancient Hebrew mysticism perspective, just go back into the Torah. Right. The very first chapter, very first few verses. In the beginning, it says God's spirit roamed across the void and the deep, right? It roamed across the waters of the void and the deep. And so before God said, let there be light, it's confirmation Out of that void, that deep, that dark, watery abyss, or that darkness, even their monotheistic God was manifested from. So don't tell me darkness is evil. Don't tell me the void and the abyss is evil. Don't tell me the darkened tree is evil according to your religious definition of what evil is. It just confirms you don't know what you're talking about. That's all. In order to have light first, you had to have darkness. In order to have something first, in order to have something, you had to have nothing first, right? No thing. In order to have the sum of a thing. That's basic metaphysics. So that first state of nothingness was the first state that everything manifested from. This is just on simplistic terms to get you to visualize and get an idea of this from a three-dimensional understanding of person, place, or thing. It goes deeper beyond outside of that when we start talking about the fourth and fifth dimensions, going into pure states of consciousness, vibrating outside of the physical body. That's getting on a whole nother level. Okay? So I'm just trying to give it to you from inside the box first in order for you to see it outside the box. Got to have that both understanding. Okay? All right. Here, the adept experiences unity with one's ideal self, which is an important step on the right-hand path. The draconian initiate, however, works with both sides of the tree, the Sephiroth and the Qliphoth, right? And this is why. Now, this question comes up a lot. If I'm working with the Qliphoth, should I work with the Sephiroth or the Qabalistic tree? I'm not saying you got to go, and I want to address this openly, so maybe this stays on record, stays recorded, because I get a lot of emails about this off and on over the years. I'm not saying you need to be full-blown Kabbalah practitioner, but you should educate yourself on the Kabbalah. And a great book I've always suggested for that, without too much of the religious overtones, is Bal Cadman's book, the Sitra Akra book. It's a long title. I've utilized it. He gives a great understanding, and he gives some good information on the Kabbalah in there in reference to your Qliphothic studies and going to the dark tree. So what I am saying on record, you should at least be educated to a certain degree of the Kabbalah, because I do think it will help you in understanding when you start working with the Qliphoth. Again, I'm not saying you need to take I mean, if you want, knock yourself out, but I'm not saying you need to take a Kabbalah course. I know some people who find a Kabbalah class locally where they're at, which you can find it. They exist online. I mean, if you want to further and get that experience, there's nothing wrong with it. That's up to you. Is it necessary? No. Should you at least have the foundational understanding and basic knowledge, or a little bit beyond of the Kabbalah? I think so, right? Because it's going to help you understand the Qliphoth. They are connected, right? It would just be like, in order to really understand the occult, if you came from religion, you need to now go back and reform your understanding of religion. You need to understand both sides of the spectrum, right? So I think you do, in my opinion. You really do. All right. All right. So let's continue. The draconian concept of the daemon is therefore related not only to the level of the Sephiroth on the bright side of the tree, but also embraces the negativity of Daguerreon. We know who Daguerreon is on the clip. The realm of Daguerreon is associated with the concept of the beast, the primal aspect of the human self. Okay? The draconian daemon is therefore both the angel and the beast. It represents both sides of your nature, right? In the Black Ship book, you learn it as the familiar and the advocate. The advocate side, or the beast side, is not the side you're as so familiar with, right? That's the side of the true self that you get completely lost and confused in, because it's never taught to you. It's always taught to you to ignore it, to suppress it, not to deal with it, this, that, or the other. Okay? So this is a good breakdown of this. Okay? The integrated and powerful self, the image of man as God. In other words, we might say that the personal daemons are images of ourselves as gods, symbols of perfection and the power we want to achieve in our personal ascent. Most definitely. To establish and develop contact and to work with your personal daemon, you have to create a vessel within your consciousness, which will gradually grow and become filled with power and knowledge. So you're feeding the personal daemon every time you're doing rituals, every time you're studying, every time you're doing shadow work, and every time you're meditating, anytime you're invoking or connecting, right? All of this is giving, well, sometimes to get a greater understanding, as I said before, to even make all of those things I just mentioned more powerful, it even further solidifies why that personal daemon needs to be awakened within, right? This is what, even when you look for an example in the Isis page, Madame Blavatsky's Removing the Veils, when she talks about some of the work on Isis, the veils of the illusionary self, right? All of this is taught in a lot of occult systems in different, might be different methodologies, but really when you come on this path from any system prior to it, you're bringing with you a lot of illusionary aspects of yourself. Aspects of yourself you've been indoctrinated with from other systems, okay? Whether it's Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Kemetic this, that, whatever it is, right? When you come on this path, you're saying, here I am, deconstruct me and put me back together. And everything you thought you knew is going to be challenged. Every spiritual practice, I don't care if you've been doing it for years, and some people think because they've been doing something for so many years that makes it right. It doesn't. Sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow when you have been doing something for so many years and you come to the conclusion, though, oh shit, I've been doing this fucked up. Okay? So you're stripping away all the illusionary aspects and veils that you were placed upon yourself knowingly and unknowingly. Most of it is unknowingly because we walk in a world and we live in a society that tries to program and indoctrinate us from a very early age. It starts from a very small child, right? And it starts with systematic education through the educational system, through upbringing, sometimes through religious and ethnic traditions, and obviously religious dogma and philosophy, right? It's a lot. So you've got to strip all that away. And I know, like some people who have been on some path of spirituality or consciousness, I know a lot of people like to think they're way past that because I hear them say it all the time. Oh, no, I'm past that. No, I'm not affected by religion no more. And then I listen to them talk and I hear the questions that they ask. And then I look at what they're doing in their spiritual practice and they don't realize subconsciously they're still suffering from psychological trauma and residue from a religious upbringing. Okay? That's just the facts. So we have to look at it in that light, okay? Or in that aspect. All right. The daemon is a dynamic force that will change and evolve. This is because your goals, expectations, and views will change and evolve as well. It is the most important guide and vehicle of your godhood on your personal path. It embraces all your strengths and weakness, confirming the importance of shadow work too. The bright and the dark aspects of your personality, the male and the female in you. When it talks about the male and the female in you, the masculine and feminine energy that needs to be harmonized. That's what Baphomet truly represents in the infernal union of Samael and Lilith. That's really, in essence, what the Qabalistic tree represents. That infusion of harmony of the divine masculine and feminine. The divine masculine obviously being represented by Samael and the divine feminine being represented by Lilith, right? So this is the importance. See, the Qabalistic tree is teaching you a whole nother science. So it's moving you away from the surface stuff, which is okay. You need to know the root of that. But when you cross through the Sitra Akra into the void and the abyss, now you're in a whole nother realm. A realm that has no limitations, no parameters, no boundaries, no beginning, no end. Its existence as what existence is, to be. It is. I know it sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo in three-dimensional terms and understanding, but you get a greater understanding of that outside of that. This is why the first mistake, the men that translated these holy books, such as the Bible and the Quran, made a mistake when they said in the beginning. That's how you know it's mortal shit. Right? In the beginning, only a human mortal would say that. Okay? It's facts. Okay? Got to think about that for a minute. Because if you say in the beginning, God, now stop, any intelligent thinker is going to go, well, how did God get there? And any religious fool is going to respond to that. Oh, see, brother, you just don't understand. God is all powerful. He works in mysterious. Just say you don't fucking know. Stop trying to sound all mumbo jumbo heavy, because any common sense, intelligent thinking person is going to read that and go, well, if it says in the beginning, and this is the very beginning, and then poof, Puff the Magic Dragon, God just appeared. How the fuck did he get there? And don't give me some mumbo jumbo explanation. See, but we're not to question that. Because, all right, so it'd be easy if you just said you don't fucking know. I'd be okay with that. If you just looked at me and said, you know what, brother, I don't know. Good question. I know. I'm not asking. It's not something I can convince everybody else of, but they need to have their own experience and realization that I know the answer to it. But I'm asking that question directly to show you how stupid people can be influenced and programmed with. It's real simple. If you believe when you're reading the first chapter of Genesis, the first couple of verses, if you believe that is the very beginning of creation, you also have to be able to explain to me, how did this God get there? Don't just say, well, poof, he just appeared. Or don't just say, you know what, there's some things, brother, we just don't understand. System of servitude and slavery. I get it. You're a mental slave. You're a follower. You're going to do whatever you're told. And then all the fear comes after that. And God created us with will. You don't have free will. It's not free. Okay? Because you're told you got free will. And then if you exercise that free will and it goes against, according to these religious laws and dogmas, then you're going to be going to some place called hell. If you follow all the rules, you're going to heaven. So how the fuck do you have free will? It makes no sense. It's a contradiction. It just goes to show you how deep the programming is. But anyway, let's not get sidetracked. Let's finish this. Almost there. Just bear with me. A couple more minutes. All right. All right. Okay. The bright and dark aspects of your personality, the male and the female in you, and many other things that you are not even aware of. It also serves as the bridge between the day side and the night side. On your first steps, now there's a connection to that to vampiric magic. On your first steps on the draconian path, you will view your daemon as your magical personality, equipped with the powers and skills that you want to develop and master. In further stages of your personal development, you will step-by-step access and harness your inner magical potential, making the daemon a living and powerful force of your spiritual ascent, successively bringing you closer to your actual godhood. So when we use this term, second. When we use this term, I'm a god or a goddess, we hear this in a lot of different conscious circles. I think this gives a better explanation of. Over the years, I always like to ask people that utilize that terminology. I'm a god. I'm a goddess. I say, hey, brother, hey, sister, what does that mean when you say that? We know what we mean when we say that. When we say we're a god or a goddess, we don't mean no mythological, spooky sky daddy. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this type of God that we're going over here. That's what a true and living God is, according to the occult left-hand path. Not some spook or mystery God that resides somewhere out there in the sky. So when somebody says, I'm a god or a goddess, next time ask them what they mean when they say that. Right? What do you mean when you say that? And if they give you some old, rehearsed program shit that they read in a book somewhere, well, back in the day, we were God. I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you about back in the day. I didn't ask you from some specific ideology. I'm asking you, what does it mean to you in your understanding and breakdown of that? Why would you refer to yourself or say that? Break that down for me. Where are you getting that understanding, overstanding, beyond standing from? I like to say beyond standing on the occult. Where are you getting that from? And that's great. Now, where you got it from, now how are you breaking that down and applying that knowledge and wisdom? And now give me a better breakdown of it so I can understand from your perspective. I don't want it just from a book's perspective, from some group you belong to or some spiritual system. I want to know how you came to the self-realization of it. Okay? That takes on a whole different path, a whole different approach. Look, the thing that makes this path not as easy as other paths, because you're going to come to the reality that a lot of shit you thought you knew was pure bullshit. And that's okay. That's step one. I came to that realization for years. I was part of so many conscious woke movements.
I thought, man, when I was in ancient Egypt, you couldn't tell me shit. I was like, oh, shit, blah, blah, blah. I thought I knew the answer to everything. And then there's that old adage, a wise man knows he knows nothing. It doesn't mean you're supposed to be dumb. It means a wise man is always wants to be a student and a learner. I'm not a student and a learner to follow somebody, but we're all students in the sense that we want to grow and gain knowledge and wisdom. Every true seeker is a student in that sense, right? So I had to realize a wise man knows he knows nothing. That's step one to becoming a wise man or a wise woman. Let's not just say man, right? I know that's a lot of patriarchal systems do that. So in order to become a wise man or a wise woman / god or goddess, hey, it's like that old saying, when Jesus said in the Bible, in order to enter the kingdom of God, you must be reborn again like the little children. He didn't mean you had to re-enter the birth canal of your mother. He was talking about what we're talking about here. All that bullshit you were talking, scratch that shit. That's what he was saying. I keep trying to tell you guys, Jesus was a cult left-hand path to the core because he was against everything that was in the system and the establishment at that time. He was like, fuck that book. I'm God. Oh my God, it's blasphemous. He says he's God. Is it not written in your law? I've said ye are gods. And he referred to them to that Psalms 82 quote that everybody quotes, where King David referred to himself and the congregation as gods. He was trying to tell them, I'm not the spook sky daddy God that you think. That's what I'm saying? Go read Psalms 82. But what did King David say at the end of that verse that nobody quotes? But ye shall die like men. He said that because he also knew he was mortal and he would die just like a man. They couldn't catch it at the time because they were fucking stupid. Okay? Is it not written in your law? He separated himself. I'm just saying, if you place yourself in that religious paradigm, I don't care whether you think it's real or fake, right? I'm saying place yourself and use the concepts of it. And it's very easy to validate a lot of points. But if you look really at the real essence of this Jesus character that they wrote about in the Bible, he was a rebel. He was very left-hand path in nature. He was very anti the establishment. He spoke out about all the bullshit that was going on. He was attacked. People seeked him. They were on his radar. They wanted to kill him. Just like today. This is when I really look from an occult perspective. When Jesus said you must pick up your cross and carry your cross, when you're on the path of the occult, you are now carrying your cross because you're going to be persecuted for the information that you're spitting out, just like he was at that time in those stories when the Pharisees and the Sadducees wanted to kill him. So when you're doing the same and you're out here dropping gems and jewels and you're against the establishment, you're speaking things against mainstream religion and society, you're going to be painted as a monster. You're going to be wanted to attack. So now you got the real occult meaning of what it means to pick up your cross and carry your cross, your burden, right? See, that's the esoterical occult breakdown of it, right? See, that's how I take a lot of the religious indoctrination and I look at the deeper meaning of it. This is what we do in the esoterical occult Bible study class. So when somebody turns to me and says, hey, Baniti, have you picked up your cross and carried it? I've been for 20 plus years, sure have. Okay, and I've seen it all, and I'm sure there's more to see. When I say I've seen it all up to this point. Nothing surprises me anymore. Okay, so you're carrying your cross according to that metaphor, right? I'm trying to use those metaphors and how we would take those stories and apply it to ourselves. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the Bible or the Quran when it's used in its correct context. I have a problem with it when it's used in man-made religions because there's a lot of things you can get out of it. And I've said this many times before over the years. There's a lot of great esoterical occult teachings you can get from the Bible and the Quran when you look at it for what it is. It is an esoterical book that was grafted from texts that predated. And that's how we utilize and teach and break it down in the esoterical occult Bible study class. But when you're using it with this man-made religious dogma, that's when I got a problem with it. Okay? That's a whole different story. But anyway. All right, let's get this done. Your magical personality is created through your systematic work. Like I was just saying, your meditations, your contemplations on the nature of your mundane and ideal image, all your work, right? This is how it's created. So if you're not consistent, you're not doing work, hence you know why I say all the time over the years, you're not getting any results, not getting any change, you're also not developing your magical personality. Okay? Okay? So this is just something to consider. Think of how the image of yourself as a god evolved and changed over the years and how you would like it to develop in the future. Your magical personality has to be different from your mundane personality. It displays your magical abilities and powers that you want to achieve through your magical work and empowers the ones that you already have, right? So it's strengthening your skills you already have that are pluses for you, that give you power, and you're also developing and working on all of the aspects of yourself, right? The best way to start working on your magical personality is to find your magical name. Once you have it, you can start building your magical self. Now, the name she's referring to here is the name, your ritualistic name in the temple, in the darkness, not your known name, right? You will see in a lot of ritual books, Coming Forth by Day, a lot of grimoires, in the Clip-Path, Draconian Magic, Luciferian Practice, where you'll see blank space written there that says, say your sacred name. That's where you would put your magical name in. We've done rituals many times here as a group and family on Patreon where we're doing ritual work and I say in silence, say your name, right? That's the name you're supposed to say. That activates your connection in the spirit realm, right? Your sacred name, we'll build on that another time. So your sacred name and your magical name is two different things. There's the known name, the magical name, and the sacred name, right? So have that understanding of all three. So this is talking about your magical name, right? And I believe this book addresses it, but we'll get into that another time. For instance, make a list of short and long-term goals that you want to achieve. Think of what you have achieved thus far and how you have come to this point. You will assume your magical personality, your daemon, and all your works of magic, and identify with the image of yourself as God in order to commune with other deities and connect with the energies of the void, the very source of the dragon's current. This is why I've been saying for years, the only place you ever needed to look, to seek and see God was in the mirror. But you were programmed from a very early age to look everywhere but inside yourself. And they set up systems to look as far away from yourself as possible. They put the monotheistic sky daddy God so far out there beyond your imagination, you can't even phantom where he's at. He's out there beyond the stars, the moon, the sun, the cloud, way out there, somewhere in the far outer reaches of space, sitting on some throne in the sky somewhere, which heaven is a confession is bigger than this God. And if God is sitting on a throne somewhere in heaven, that means God has an ass and he's sitting on a chair. And if he's omnipotent and omnipresent and omniscient, he couldn't be there and be here simultaneously. That's a whole nother story. That's just little concepts to show you how foolish this is to believe in something like that. So they intentionally took you as far away from yourself in the outer depths of outer space. So you're looking so far away from yourself for this God when they knew from day one, if you just looked inside yourself, where they were trying to take you away from day one, that you would find the God that you've been looking for all the time. Okay? And as I said before, our path is an inward journey out. It's not an outward journey in. Religion is an outward journey in, because religion starts you from day one looking out there, and they're teaching you backwards. This is how they program you. So you're trying to go out there and bring some essence of God or the creator from way out there into you, when the very essence of God and the creator has always resided within you. Confirmation of that for religious folks is Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. What does it say? God breathed into the breath of man's nostrils, the breath of life, and what? Man became a living soul. Is this not what Jesus was referring to? Why he said he was God? He said, we are all God's children of God, right? Because every walking, intelligent, thinking, breathing being has the very essence of God within them. That's what he was trying to say. It wasn't complicated. That's what he said. When you see me, you see God. Oh, he's saying he's God. No, that's not what he was saying. When I see you, I see God. When you see me, I see God. He was saying, when you see me, you see God. Oh, he's saying he's God. Yeah, but not the God that you think. That's why same thing with us on this path. When I see you, God, I see you, Goddess. I recognize your works because I see that your personal daemon is awoke. You're on this path. I see the activation of that true light, right? Not that false illusionary light, that true light that emerged from the darkness. One must go into the darkness to do the work of the light. The light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Right? I know Christians would like to say, well, that's Jesus. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with Jesus. Ask any Masonic brother that has traveled. He'll break it down for you a little further. It's not what it means. Okay. I know they want to tell you that in religion. It sounds good. It almost fits the part, but you can take a lot of that stuff and twist it around. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was light, and the light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And I know they always like to take that and go, see, that's the us spoken of in one. He was there. Jesus was there with God in the beginning. No, go back to the Hebrew. That's not what the word breaks down to. I know in English you want to make it sound like that, but that's not what it says. Okay, show me in the Aramaic and the Hebrew what it says. Okay, who was the us he's speaking to in the first chapter of Genesis? Okay, but anyway, I don't want to get into all that religion. That's not what we're doing tonight. All right. So, this is done by declaring your magical name at the commencement of a ritual, thus projecting your consciousness into your daemon and acting as a godlike being until the end of the whole operation. Remember that you are already a god in potential, and all your works of personal development bring you closer to your godhood. And this is why I always like to ask people, are you God or are we striving to become God or goddess? The striving is continual. Okay? It's continual. You are not acquiring any new powers. They already exist within you. And you are only accessing, mastering, and developing them in order to achieve the desired image of yourself as a god. This process is continuous and never ending. Continuous and never ending. Okay? Once you get to the desired stage, new goals and aspirations will appear. New image of godhood will be formed in your mind, and your daemon will shift on to a higher level as well. When your personal daemon is guiding your journey, you will always know what direction to go. You will know what type of ritual work you will be doing. When your life changes, you will know what the next stage of your development is. This is what I tell people, right? And if you're doing your shadow work and your demonic integration work and all of those foundational things, you will always be going in the right direction. It's going to be easy? No. It's going to be challenges, obstacles. Are you going to be dealing with obstructions and blockages? Of course you are. But at least you're now armed with the ability and the power and the tools and the knowledge to win the war. Okay? Not just the battle. Your goal is to win the war. The war with what? The war with your weaker self. I keep trying to tell you, the war you've been fighting from day one is with yourself. Okay? You're at war. You've been at war with yourself from day one. You're fighting all the shit you've been programmed with. You're fighting all the trauma and the bullshit you inherited along through your upbringing, whether that's family trauma, personal trauma, etc., psychological, right? You're battling the weaker self. All these things that you've inherited is the most toxic, detrimental blockage to your growth on this path. I know people always like to look outside. Somebody's putting a curse on me. Somebody's putting roots on me. Somebody's hexing me. Somebody's out to get me. See, that's part of the trick. 99.9% of the people who are playing victim all the time, using a crutch to lean on, it's always something or somebody outside of themselves doing something to them, preventing them from growing and becoming what they can be. But they never take responsibility themselves for their weaknesses and their faults. Sometimes you've allowed those people in your life willingly. Did you take responsibility for that? Sometimes you made a stupid fucking bonehead decision that put you in that position. Did you take responsibility for that? No. It's always not me. Someone's out to get boo-hoo-hoo. Poor. Listen, nobody is that fucking important where people sit around focusing on you all fucking day. That is some egotistical bullshit. If you think people are sitting around all day plotting and attacking on you, you ain't that great. Trust me. Nobody's sitting around all day trying to plan and plot your downfall. Okay? I know you like to think that because that's your weaker, insecure self, right? Or that's the weak side of your ego. You're not that fucking important. Just like I don't sit there and think nobody's sitting around plotting my fucking downfall. I don't worry about stupid shit like that, right? One, I'm fully equipped to deal with that, so I don't even worry about that. Two, I just know that's not a reality. Nobody's that fucking important. Okay? Think of how egotistical you got to be. Yeah, you know, so they're hating on me. They haters. Yeah, haters exist. I get it. But you ain't that fucking important. Trust me when I tell you. People gonna hate. It's normal. Who cares? At the end of the day, you should never let nothing distract you from achieving your goals. That's always gonna exist. There's always gonna be stupid ass people in the world saying and doing stupid shit. That'll never change. What can change is the level you allow it to affect you. That can be changed by you. Okay? But if you allow and let that shit feed into your existence, then it becomes overwhelming and devours you. Okay? So we got to get in the right frame of mind. All right. If you already have a magical name, feel free to use it in any rituals presented in this book. We should use it anywhere. If you are still searching for one, this may be a good moment to start building your magical personality. Magical name is usually either chosen by the magician or received from gods and the spirits of this path. Mine came to me and given to me by the gods of this path. Some develop it themselves. Mine came to me in one of probably the biggest initiations that I did in my entire life up until this point. And it was revealed to me by 3 specific deities. Okay. And my name is a combination of that. You'll never guess it, trust me, in a million years. And it comes in either form. Some people get clarity on it and they develop it and create it themselves. So if the question you're asking is, well, how do you get your magical name? That's the 2 ways. Either you come to a clear realization and you create it yourself and you say, based on something you experienced, something that came to you, or sometimes it comes to you in ritual or some form of deep initiation. Okay. Mine came to me clearly in an initiation / ritual, like many of you have also. Okay, so that's how you get it. So if that's the question on your mind, that's how you get it. All right. Here's further information on it. If you prefer to choose your name or find it yourself, there are a few methods that you can find useful. If you want to receive a name from your patron god or goddess or your personal guide, you may either ask for it through your daily practice or during the ceremony of initiation. And I did it during initiation. Be it self-initiation or something done in connection to the magical order. Magical names are often given to adepts by God themselves during the rites of initiation. But you may also ask for it beforehand and only declare it in the initiatory ceremony. You may also have more than one magical name. In time, you will find that various gods and spirits you work with will grant you lesser and greater initiations. And you also may be given names reflecting powers or skills developed through these initiatory experiences. These names may be accepted as parts of your magical personality or used only in rituals dedicated to the entities from which you receive them. So there's your different breakdown of how you can get it, how you can receive it, and the different methods you can utilize to do that. How to find your magical name, for instance, you can try and look for it in your dreams. This is something I haven't heard too many people do, but I do know a couple of people that did it through dream work. In a dream, the name may be revealed in many ways. Perhaps you will receive it from an entity, your personal patron deity, or another person. Sometimes the elder gives it to you too, because something came to that elder in relationship to your connection with them. That has happened to me in the past. Sometimes the whole dream may represent your magical name. If you dream of diamonds, perhaps your magical name is Diamond or is related to the concept in some way. You can also create your magical name by using your imagination or in the form of an idea that you want to express through your magical personality.
Many magicians use power words or words from ancient languages to describe skills and powers they want to possess, such as example, Ignis Draconius, which means dragon's fire. Also, many magicians adopt names and attributes of their patron deities, demons, and mythical figures. For instance, Lilith Noctulia refers to the nocturnal predatory aspect of the dark goddess. The name has to be meaningful to you. Here's the important thing. It's got to be meaningful to you, and if you're creating it yourself, and it's got to fit your nature, your personality. There has to be a connection there, okay? That's the important. Don't just pick a name because you like it. Does it suit you? Does it fit your personality? Also, do you have a connection with that? Okay. In essence, is kind of what she's saying here, right? The name has to be meaningful to you, and it should be the source of your power and self-confidence. So choose it carefully. It should make you feel powerful, confident about your magical skills, and worthy speaking to the denizens of the other side. And then the very last couple lines. Once chosen, the magical name does not have to be the same for the whole lifetime. It can change over time. As your personal goals and views change and develop, your magical name can be changed too. It is also possible that in a certain stage of your path, gods and spirits will give you a new name anyway. So it is good to keep an open mind and take advantage of the best opportunities offered to you by the path itself. All right. So that concludes the magical personality integrating the demonic self. I'm going to take some questions now and then wrap it up. I'm going to go to I think we have one super chat. Super chat questions will get first priority. If you want your question to come to the top, a quick super chat donation will do that. So Slim Lewis, again, thank you for the donation. So you actually don't have a question, just a thanks. I've learned a lot from you over the years. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the donation, and I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go to the top. If you got questions, pop them in. I'm going to go in order. If you want your question to come to the top, you can just, again, go right to the bottom of the YouTube, do a super chat, and I'll see it, and I'll take your question right away. Your question will get first priority. Hot Headless says, blessings. I apologize if I came off rude last year. Oh, no worries. It's all good. That's over with, done with. Don't worry about that. Not sure if I fully remember, but whatever it was, don't worry about that. It's irrelevant. Asiatic Soul, what's going on, brother? Peace, greetings. Good to see you here. NJ. Now rule in the house. Let me stop. Good to see you here, brother. Lamar Asmo says, how many medallions did you get from the temple? Man, I think I mentioned to you guys in the video I did a while back. They're so unorganized that they send out multiple. I can't recall offhand. I think the brown, when you get initiated, I think I have 3 of those, if I'm not mistaken. And the white, I only got 1 or 2. I might have 1 extra. So I think it's a total of like 4 or 5 or something like that. But again, as I told you before, that a lot of that was due to the administration. It's so unorganized. Takes so forever to respond. It's just so badly. It was a horrible experience. But yeah, I'm going to say 4 or 5, I believe. I know I have some tucked away in a drawer. But yeah, that's that. Xander, what's going on? Jin Jenny, aka Jin Jenny. Yeah, please don't forget to hit the like button. Hit the like button. Get this algorithm out. Let's let this, they control the algorithms of these channels bad now here on YouTube. Kenneth, what's going on? Patreon got a lot of, again, I'm not just saying that because it's my Patreon page. But Patreon got a lot of gems on it. One thing I want to throw out for those that came late, next month I will be putting it out in the next day or two. It's going to be on a Saturday. I'm going to do a 1-day workshop online seminar. It's going to be called Black Magic Essentials 101. It's going to be about 4 to 5 hours. There'll be a break in between. It'll be a 1-day thing, pretty much, well, not all day, but about 4 or 5 hours of the day. Pretty long time. And we're going to cover black magic. I want to really focus on ritual work, see where you guys are at. Great ways to create ritual work, how to fuel your intent, how to create rituals, just ensure we're doing it the right way. We'll talk about some topics. Obviously, I wouldn't talk about here, but it's going to be called Black Magic Essentials 101.
It's going to be in August. Again, a 4 or 5 hour one-day event. It's going to be $50 for the entire event. You'll be able to pay by PayPal, Cash App. I'll have all that when I put out the advertisement in the next few days. You're going to, as soon as the advertisement goes up in the next day or two, you'll be able to sign up immediately. I think on the, I don't know, I think on my Zoom account, I think I can have a max of 50 to 100 people in the room. So we shouldn't run out of space. I'm sure we'll be good on space. So space would only run out unless I've hit the max. I think StreamYard, I could even record, which I can record. I think it holds more. I'll look at both methods of doing it. But anyway, you'll be able to sign up immediately. As I was sitting there and contemplating, I'm thinking about doing 4 of these workshops throughout the year. Doing 4 of these, and something I wanted to kind of get around to last year, and I never got around to, because as you know, with the Patreon page and doing readings and consultations, and then doing what I really do for a living in my professional life, it's a lot of time. You guys got to understand, I don't just do this, right? I have a whole business and a career, and I mean, it's a lot. I'm doing that, and then I got a kid that plays travel hockey full time, which, as you know, I travel all over the place. So I'm trying to juggle multiple things, and I'm not complaining about it because I'm blessed, right? I look at it as a great blessing because I have the ability to do all these things. But time, boy, if there's one thing I could buy, I would buy some goddamn time, right? But you just make it happen. You make it happen. All right, what else we got? Venus 880. I'm always booked for readings, but if you send me an inquiry of what kind of reading you want, and just put your full weekly availability. Once I know your weekly availability, I can give you a clear idea. I can always get people in, but it's at least a couple of days. Sometimes people want to read in that day or the next day. That's rare. At least 2 to 3 day window. And sometimes, depending on how busy, it could be maybe a week out. But usually within a week's time, for the most part, I can get to everybody within a week. So, yeah, just send me an email and an inquiry on what kind of reading you want. And then just send me your time zone and your full weekly availability, and we can make it happen. I can do that for anybody. Young Finest. I love it. That's one of my favorite avatars. Brother Maniti, really starting to feel different. I hope in a good way. I hope. You didn't. I don't see any. Let me see if you put something down there. I hope when you say feel different. Bella Sanisrio says, oh, actually caught alive. Okay, good. Glad you finally made it here. Regina Green says, good evening. Jack Charles, what's going on, brother Jay? We got to catch up. It's been a minute. Hope everything is well with you if you're still here. No, this is just a random live, Jenny. This is not a Patreon class. Oh, this is interesting. Good question by Ruben C. Hey, Baniti, what are your thoughts on Harvard saying that aliens are amongst us? Well, I think the inevitable is starting to come out. I just don't think these things can be hidden no more. I know a lot of people, not us per se, or people here. I know a lot of people now, because Harvard is supposed to be such an accredited source. I don't know if they have an agenda for why now, why Harvard. I don't really know. But I think they're saying what everybody really has sensed and known for years. I don't think that that's a shock. I think also they're saying it because there's been a lot of paranormal stuff going on the last 40 to 50 years that, you could pull up so much stuff going on in Africa that they're trying to tell the people there not to talk about. We know there's been heavy activity in Mexico. Mexico, this has been going on for years. There's been certain parts of Europe, here in the United States. Even here where I'm at in Florida, there's been a lot of activity. They can't hide this anymore, right? As I've said many times before, we would have to be stupid to think we're the only intelligent life force in this universe. That would be foolishness. Now, I also don't want people to take the mindset like we're going to get invaded by aliens because, as I said before, we have to look at those beings, even the entities that we work with, which are outside of the terrestrial realm, would be considered aliens. Anything outside of Terra, which is an ancient name for Earth, that's not terrestrial or earthly, would be considered an extraterrestrial. A meteorite is an extraterrestrial because it's coming out from outside of Earth's atmosphere into the atmosphere. So it's something extra coming into Terra or the Earth, right? I keep trying to tell you guys, those aliens and those beings, it's no different whether you're studying the Anunnaki pantheology, the Neteru, the demons of the clip pop, these are all highly intelligent beings that you are connected to, that just exist outside this physical realm that you reside on. But don't look at yourself as any different from them. That's what I've been trying to tell you for years. So I don't want nobody to look at it. And I'm not saying you are, Ruben. I'm just saying because you brought this up. It's a great question. I'm saying we need to have that approach. There's some people out there who live in fear and they're terrified that there's going to be an alien invasion. And my answer to that has been simple over the years. If we were sitting here right now and the sky cracked and a huge spaceship came through and aliens came off it, well, then just kiss your ass goodbye. Put your head between your legs, kiss your ass goodbye, and hopefully it's quick. I say that same thing if there's going to be some cataclysmic doomsday. Okay? If you believe in that. If you're not at the level where you believe you can't control that. But us who are grounded on this path, I don't fear that at all. Okay? I don't worry about that at all. Okay? Because I know those things that they're trying to instill fear in us, we are those things, and those things are us. Okay? All this alien talk, we are the aliens. The aliens that they're saying are coming back, we're already here. And they're coming back for a reason, because they're coming back for some of us, because some of us are their children. Okay? Some of us who know. I'm very careful how I talk about this topic, because this topic has gotten religious and spookified over the years. So I don't want nobody getting the mindset, oh, so if we got aliens coming back, I'm just going to sit around and wait. I ain't got to do shit. No, that's not what it means. They're only coming back for a certain intellectual mentality and mindset of individuals. They ain't coming back for the stupid and the ignorant. Okay? So this is why I'm very cautious of how I talk about this, because I don't want to get spookified with it. But again, to sum up the answer to your question, Ruben, I find it interesting, but I also find they're only saying what we already knew. Okay? But at least now, to a degree, I'm sure there's a deeper agenda there, though. Jeremy says, what's going on, brother Jeremy? Hope everything is well with you. Your esoteric Bible study classes has helped me exponentially. I appreciate that. Yes, it's that time. What's going on? Well, I'm glad you caught it live. I know he says it's been a while. Cool. Slim Lewis says, do you think that after one has a good amount of experience on the occult / left-hand path, that the rituals one creates can be more powerful than the rituals learned from others? 100,000,000%. I actually encourage you to create your own rituals. 150,000,000%. I've always said over the years, it's okay to take rituals from books and carry them out. But I've always said, make sure you make some adjustments and change and customize them to a certain degree to make them personal, make them your own. But as you know, the rituals, if you're on, anybody that's on Patreon, like we just did Vortex to the Throne of Lucifer ritual this past Thursday, I literally just have a general idea. I might have seen something from a book, maybe an invocation or two that I might use in the ritual, but I pretty much freestyle the ritual from beginning to end. I don't even know what I'm going to do up until the very moment the ritual begins. That's literally for years now how I've been doing my rituals. So how I create my rituals, and in Black Magic Essentials 101, these are the things we're going to be going over. I'm going to show you these type of things. So for those that really want to know hands-on how to work magic, that's going to be the seminar you probably don't want to miss. Yeah, and I'm not just trying to put the promo out there. Of course, I got to. But these are the things I want to focus on. How I create my rituals, I get an idea in my head. I know what I want to do. I'm clear on what I want to focus on. I've grafted some different sources and ideas. I've got them in my head. I might use one or two, but then I just let the personal Daemon guide me to my spirits, my Patreon demons and patroness demons, gods and goddesses. And they literally, not to sound spooky, this works for me, they literally guide me through the entire ritual. It comes to me in the moment as I'm doing it. What I say, what I'm focusing on, like we did on the Vortex to the Throne of Lucifer ritual, just to give you a general idea. And if you want the whole ritual, you go on Patreon. It's just the way it is. The Vortex to the Throne of Lucifer was part of the visualization was we were surrounded by black mirrors, multiple black mirrors that had like a liquid essence. It's going to give you a basic summarization. We were taken through those mirrors, and things transpired on the other side of those mirrors. Can't really get into the particulars because, again, that's for Patreon members. That's just the way it is, because then it wouldn't be right for those who are on Patreon and members. That's what they pay for. And all of that whole concept of that ritual came in the moment. Okay, there's mantras to the rituals. The demons, gods, and goddesses give me in the moment. They'll tell me what to vibrate. This is what we need to do. And I'm big on using mantras, chants, because it activates tones and frequencies. It gets that individual vibrating at a faster rate, so you can have those spiritual experiences with the spirit realm. But that's the way I create my rituals. I just get an idea. I have a couple of sources in my head, and then I just freestyle it in the moment. I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. And in the Black Magic Essentials 101 seminar, I'm not just going to be saying it, teaching it like that, and that's the way to do it. I'm going to show you there's different methods. There's ways for people who are more like to write things down, maybe be a bit organized, the whole nine. I'm going to show you all those different techniques. So you're going to have to be the one to find out which one works for you. Me, I'm at the stage, I don't even really keep a magical journal anymore. I used to. It's just my mind has become so enhanced, and I say this is my magical diary now, journal. Everything is in here. I could access it. It's crazy. I did for a while. I did used to keep it very detailed. I still keep it for records to look back at, but I've pretty much stopped it altogether. This is my magical diary now. It's like I can go into this bank, this computer, this hard drive anytime I want now, and poof, pull something out. That's what happens when you really start to understand what we were talking about tonight. Okay. All right, what else we got? Looking for questions. Kuku Manu says, "Hi, Benny. What happened with part 1 of the Santa Muerte video?" I don't know. I'm gonna have to go look at that. Maybe something was labeled wrong. I don't know. Do me a favor. Shoot me an email. If it's the Santa Muerte on YouTube, I have to go back to that time frame. Sometimes YouTube takes. I don't know. They take shit down. I'll have to go back in the archives when I get a chance to see. I'm not sure. To my knowledge, everything that I did supposed to be there. Now, something could have happened. I don't know. I'll have to take a look into it when I get a minute. So I don't have an answer for you at the moment. All right. What else we got? Yeah. Urban Alchemist. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about when I was saying, especially when they keep saying the Most High, yeah, that kills me when people say they're not religious and all these systems of consciousness and being woke. The Most High, a convenient term used for somebody who doesn't quite want to leave religion, but doesn't want to be fully ingrained in religion. I always mentioned you guys a story a few years back. There was a brother who was, I've told you this a few times. There was a brother who was heavy into Egyptian/Kemetic studies. And I always used to get into this debate with him because he had this habit of referring to the Egyptian deity Amun-Ra. He used to say Ra, the Most High God. And that used to bother the shit out of me because here we are having a discussion and he's talking about how he's God and this, that, and the other, and, religion. But I'm like, who's this Most High God, Ra, you keep referring to? The Most High. I'm like, the Most High or what? After him getting frustrated and annoyed, I say, well, how does that differ from somebody who refers to Yahweh or El Elo or Allah as the Most High? How does that differ? Nah, brother, I don't mean it like that. What I'm saying is I mean it like, well, the Most High, the greatest God. I say, you're reaching for straws, dude. You're still finding some reason, because what you're not seeing is there's a subconscious blockage there that regardless of what path you think you're on, how much level of knowledge and information you think you attain, you're still dealing with psychological trauma from religion. And dude was raised Christian and converted to Islam, then left Islam and got on a Kemetic path. So he was still suffering from the Judeo-Christian Islamic mentality, but he didn't want to recognize it. There's no justification you can utilize in any shape, form, or fashion. Why am I saying that? Because if you're saying the Most High God, you're already creating yourself separate from that. If you're saying Most High, you're creating yourself in an inferior perspective to this God. So if you believe that there's a most high God that's greater than you and you're inferior to it, then you can't be God, dude. That's all that is. I don't know what it is you don't understand, but you can't be God. Not the way you're teaching it. He couldn't grasp that. So yeah, a lot of those flim flammers will like to hold on to that most high shit. It's hilarious. Belial's channel. Hey, what's going on? If you have a channel, I got to check that out if that's an actual channel. Kuku Manu says, I also saw a video where you talk about the Celts. If I understood correctly, they were descendants of black people. Could you provide sources for these theses? Well, yeah, if you go back to a lot of the Black Moors, if you're familiar with the Moors, you have to go back to the history. Even when you go to the Mediterranean, if you go to the South Mediterranean of Sicily, which as we know, Sicily, and I have roots there, also in that part. You'll see who we call the Moors, and a lot of blacks had their presence there. And the reason why if you do some of the research with the Celts, a lot of their traditions you will see connected to some of these African cultures or magical systems that we practice today. Now, also what I was saying about the Celts is they also, just like for an example, if you look at the Roman Catholic Church, how they took a lot of the ancient Egyptian teachings when they invaded the libraries of Alexandria and then brought those teachings back into Rome. It's like any culture, when they're introduced to something, you can look at that in the Norse mythology and see, the connections there, right? But they also developed their own systems that they incorporated with it. Now, if you shoot me an email, there are some books too. I have them, but I would have to shoot you an email. There are some books that connected. There's one called the Black Celts, and there's a couple of good sources you can research. Now, again, you have to do some of that research and come to that conclusion. Just like anything else, there's going to be some things that are debatable, but there's a lot of evidence and information there to see the connection. It's no different also when you look at the Aztec and the Mayan culture, right? There's a connection there with the building of pyramids. So we know before what they're calling the continental drift, right? We know these cultures were linked. So this is how a lot of them were cross-connected, right? There's a lot of similarities, but it doesn't mean they didn't develop their own systems from, even if they were motivated by it or came connected to it in some shape, form, or fashion. But there's a connection there. All right, what else we got? Black Rat says, the ego and pride is what keeps an individual from admitting they don't know. 100%. Look, there's many times you guys have asked a question or you mentioned the book and you say, hey, did you ever read this book? I've said I don't know. I'll have to read that book. There's nothing wrong with just saying you don't know. All right? I don't claim to know everything. Neither should anybody else. Nobody knows everything. Okay? It's not a reality. So I have no problem if somebody says, hey, man, I read this book. Hey, I didn't read it. I don't know. Or somebody asks me a question. I'll say I'm not too familiar with that. Or I might say I've heard of it. I haven't really studied it like that. So I really can't give you a true answer to that question. And that's it. But people who, like you say, have that pride and that ego, they will sit there and moose is what I like to call it. There's a lot of moosers out there. They just try to moose and say stupid shit to sound like they know what they're talking about, when rather just say, I don't know, man. That's it. I'm going to have to look into that, Kuku. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back in the archives and look at it. I don't know right now. When I get some time, I'll take a look at it. Black Wrath says, everything starts with this. Yes. The conscious community isn't what it used to be. Debates and arguments is nothing but feed the ego. Yes. And I've said before, because they're rehashing the same shit over and over. How many times do I want to see a debate between the Black Hebrew Israelites and the Kemetic community? Who cares? But I get it. It's views. It's a money grab. It's hits. But it also speaks to the mentality of the people. If this is the same rhetoric people want over and over, those people are mentally dead. Arguing over the same nonsense about Kemet and the Bible and Egypt and this and that. All right, I get it, but enough is enough. It's overkill. But hey, if people got platforms and that's what the listeners want to hear, I get it. It's a money thing. It's a view thing. It's a grab thing, but it is. It's also an ego fest. Because in all these debates, everyone claims that they're right, that they got the exclusive truth. They all act like they're dropping some heavy shit, and it just becomes redundant. Sad, but true. Black rest as the occultist is the outsider in Western society. Most definitely. We are not the norm. As I was using that terminology metaphorically, like Jesus said in the Bible, you must pick up your cross and carry your cross. Anybody that speaks real truth is going to be persecuted, just like he was in those stories. Why? Because he was speaking against the norm. He was a nonconformist. He was anti the establishment. We're pretty much the same way. We're going to speak our minds. If something isn't right, we're going to speak out against it. We're not going to accept everything just because everybody else does. So because we stand firm on our truth, we're going to be persecuted too. So you too, instead of maybe saying pick up your cross, pick up your pentagram, whatever you want to call it. And we have to carry that burden too. That's just the way it is. Bree says Jesus was left-hand parent, rebellious as fuck. He was. I left Christianity after studying Jesus and the New Testament. He spoke out against everything that Christianity stands for. I don't understand how Christians can't see it. They don't want to see it, and some of them don't because they're too dumb. The thing I don't understand, if you look at who everybody, this character Jesus went to in the Bible, it was all the degenerates of society. He went to the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the criminals. He went to all the so-called derelicts of society. That's not what these mainstream Christians do. They do things. I'm not saying there's no, look, I want this to be clear. I'm not saying there's no good people that are Christians and they're not good people. I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying there's no Christian churches, excuse me, or Christian folks doing positive things to help the less fortunate, because there are, right? But as a whole, when we look at the doctrine, a lot are not, and it's not being addressed. And again, Jesus went to the low life and the derelict society. He was quiet. Why do you sit with those people? You read the stories in the Bible. Why do you sit with the tax collectors and the crooks and the chiefs? Why do you hang around with that woman, Mary Magdalene? She was a prostitute. You know the story of Mary Magdalene. Let me show you how it's a deep ass story. They were getting ready to stone her because she was giving up the goods. She was selling that punani. And what did he do? They were getting ready to stone her. He picked up a stone. He said, any one of you that's without any fault or sin, throw the first stone. They couldn't do nothing. They put their stones down. That's type shit he would come, some straight gangster shit. Like, if none of you motherfuckers ever did some crazy shit. So what does that say for a character who was protecting a prostitute, who, when she was amazed when you read the story, because she never got that type of respect. But look who the man rolled with in those stories. That Jesus character is a representation of us. He didn't judge nobody. He went to the people that need help. What was the other term he would say? Does a physician go to the well to heal them? No, he was a physician because remember, one of Jesus's titles is the great physician. And when they question him on this, he says, does the physician go to the well, or does the physician go to the sick and those who need healing? Look at what he did. He went to the crippled, to the sick, to the drug addicts, the derelicts, the criminals. See, that's the Jesus that I know. And I keep it 100. People say, yes, I love Jesus, 100%. My Jesus is real. Praise God. My Jesus is real. That's my Jesus, though. Okay? That's the reality. Okay? And if you look at it in that perspective, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay? But when you look at the story and what the man did, is very occult, left-hand path in nature. He was breaking down jewels. When the body becomes full of light, the eye becomes one. What was he talking about? We know what he was talking about. He's talking about the third eye, the pineal. It's clear as day. See, don't get it twisted. See, when the men that wrote and translated the Bible, they left a lot of stuff in there that they thought most people would never pick up on. But you get my point. So they do see it, Breed. It's not that they don't see it. They don't want to recognize it, some of them. Well, some of them, let's just be real. They're dumb as rocks. They're just asleep. But reality, okay? Reality. All right, what else we got? Black Rat says, yes, manipulation and mind control is what keeps religious people sick. 100%. Amrit, what's going on? Glad you made it here. Shooting past God, going straight for Titan. That's right. What else we got? Accountability and responsibility for self. All right, let me see what we got. Let's look for some questions. I think we get to the bottom here. Type your questions in. People will hate on others just for breathing random a-holes that are just miserable with life. Yeah, it's just a reality. Look, there's always going to be idiots and assholes in the world. And look, when you have the reality of it, it's easier to navigate through life. Don't set yourself up and create this fictional world. See, people set the wrong expectations for the wrong things, and then they get disappointed. So don't do that to yourself. When Static Shock met his future self in an episode of season 4, it told him, believe in yourself is your greatest power. 100%. 100%. All right, Keona. Yeah, we went over that. Magical name and spiritual name. That's what we talked about. I know you typed this in earlier, so you heard what we talked about before. Good question here by Ultra Instinct. Can the magical name be fitting of the personality traits you want to bring about? It should be, because as I said earlier, it should suit you. It should fit you. It should be a connection to you in some shape, form, or fashion. And that would be one important way. So in my opinion, and based on what we discussed tonight, and based on the information here and the other information you can research, that would be a very, very important aspect. 100%. It should be, in my opinion. Okay. Black Rat says, amazing session. I'm new here, but definitely will be back. Well, we appreciate you coming, brother. Keona says, now that you said maybe that's a miss. Know that you said we are important. I would assume that is. Have a person who said yes to me that he's praying for my downfall. He keeps doing black magic per his words, and I laugh. Yeah, I mean, look, I've had people tell me that shit. But if you know who you are and you're rooted in your power, it's a joke. It's a joke. When you have a strong relationship with the gods, the goddesses, the demons, and the spirits, you fear nothing or no one. It doesn't mean you're infallible. It doesn't mean something can't happen to you. You can't get sick. See, people get spooky to go, well, that person was this and that. How did they get sick or ill? Or how did this or that happen? Okay. There's life things that can happen, an accident, a sickness, illness. But as far as somebody praying for you down, look, I stand firm in this. I don't worry about that part. But that doesn't mean the natural things in life can't affect you. Because I've had people say dumb shit. Well, if that person was so powerful, how'd they get sick? You know how stupid you sound? Because that shows how spooky you are, because you're still thinking from that monotheistic God perspective. That's why. Right? But yet, when you look at millions of dedicated, faithful Christians who pray their ass off every day in church all the time, they also get sick. They also get into accidents. This and that happens. Do you question that? Right? No. Some of them don't, because what do? They say it's all part of God's plan. And in essence, that part of their perspective and approach, I agree with. Right? Even though they're spooky as fuck, but I agree. See, you got to get that dogmatic way of thinking out of your mind. Okay? So the last thing any of us, and it's funny you bring it up, and I know you're not worried about it, Keanu, but the last thing any of us should be, that's the last thing on my mind with all the shit I got. Don't worry about that shit. And first of all, be careful. I keep telling people this. Be careful who you do ritual work on, because if you're not sure of your target, that individual who could be more powerful than you can send that shit back to you tenfold worse than you send it to them. I'm just being real with you. So sometimes you don't know your target and you're setting yourself up for something you ain't ready for. I've seen that happen. I've done it. Okay. And my thing is, if you attack anybody, it's open war. I'm not emotionally invested. I don't give a fuck. Okay. And when you launch an attack or you do destructive magic and you're justified, there's no mercy. So you got to know the rules of engagement. You got to know how that works. That's nothing to play with. And I don't teach anybody to play with it. I've always taught you guys in the spectrum of those things, there has to be some justification there, and there has to be some rules that govern that. And it should only be done in the most crucial cases. I don't ever teach anybody to abuse that because there's nothing to abuse. Because nothing is free in that battle. Even you have to give something of that, even if you're in the right. And most people ain't prepared to give. But when it's open season, it's open season. There's no mercy. There's no remorse. And I'm not emotionally invested. I don't give a fuck. I'm not emotionally invested. I don't care. Okay? Because if it's open season, it's open season. Be careful of that type of war. That may not be a war that you want. You may think you're ready for that. I've seen people, many people over the years who thought they were ready for something like that, and it destroyed their lives. Okay? But that's something for another. Not understanding this question. Got to be a little more specific. Candace says, what is a common place to place spell work in the multiverses? I think you got to be a little more clear with that question. I don't want to assume. I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't want to assume. So maybe type something in further down. Amrit says, in regard to the aliens, lots of kids go missing in Canadian national parks, perhaps connected to that. Well, let me tell you this. I'm going to go a little deeper on this. And again, I don't want nobody to get spooked out with this. Children, and you will also find many other people in society, such as homeless people, alcoholics, bums, and drug addicts. Let me tell you why. First of all, a lot of the people that are put on streets to be drug addicts, and especially alcoholics, because the alcohol ferments the organs in the body. The children, too, because of their innocence, a lot of children you see in that spectrum get abducted because a lot of children have purer minds than us corrupted adults. And sometimes when they're chosen or certain messages are being instilled in them, or they're being chosen for a task, it's easier to deal with somebody who, quote unquote, is in a more pure state of mind. Whereas they won't fuck with certain individuals where their mind is too fucked up and gone and they're too of this world. Now, as crazy as this may sound, sometimes you might see and pay attention. Sometimes in your area, your neighborhood, where you have a lot of homeless people, sometimes they just disappear off the grid. And the reality is there are some that come here. They do experiments. Some are taken for the organs in their body. Again, I want to be careful how I talk about this because I don't want people to think or go to Spookyville. But this is the reality. You have to remember, a lot of these extraterrestrials have come here for the years. Some of it is just, it's a playground for predators and prey. Okay, they come here too, and they've been coming here for years. Movies like The Predator were trying to show that. A lot of these alien movies were trying to show that. Some come here for the natural resources. We have the most water than any planet in the galaxy, in the universe. Some come for the gold. That's what the whole Anunnaki story was about. They came here to mine the gold. Because when you read the story of the Anunnaki and the depletion of their three sons, they came here so they can mine the gold and use that gold to create a dome or a shield when you read some of the stories, right? So some came here to excavate the planet for natural minerals and resources. Some came here to hunt. Just keeping it real with you. And some also come here because some of us are their children. And this is why when you read the stories of a galactic council, right? This is what a galactic council is set up for. There's rules of engagement. Look, there's a lot of things I won't talk about because people spook it out. I don't like to talk about a lot of it openly on YouTube because there's too much of it out there now. And a lot of it is mixed in with a lot of bullshit. So what I'm saying now in this moment, and I'm not telling you guys to accept that. I want to be clear on that. This is my understanding, my realization I've come to, and some of you have come to a similar one. So you know what I'm talking about. Some of you may not at all. Some of you may think of what I'm saying right now sounds fucking completely crazy, and that's okay. As I said very early in the beginning of the video, you should not accept anything I'm saying until you come to the realization of it. But there is a connection to what you just said, Amrit. Most definitely. You will notice the reasons for children, women, and men are different. Okay? So, yeah. what else we got? Kenneth says, when you are finished with spell work, is it a difference in your results depending upon where you place it? Yeah, well, it depends on the spell work, depends on what you're doing, and yeah, when you place it, of course there is, right? So I can only answer that because I know what you're saying when you word it like that now, but it's vague. But a lot of it has to do with what kind of spell you did, what it's for, and then yes, those things 100% apply. Amber says, I mean, the Nagas are coming through a lot. Personally, they are aliens. They have been coming to their children as of late. In my understanding, I agree with the aliens coming from back for the kid. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can look at this a lot of cultures. Even when you look at, you can go over to parts of Africa. You can go, like I said earlier, there's a lot of history of a lot of entities visiting this planet. It's reality, right? The Dogon of Mali in West Africa, the Baldorite, the Sagi, they believe there was beings that came from outside of our atmosphere and lived beneath the surface of the water and came to the surface and mixed with the people in Mali. And you can pull this up on the internet. Google it's crazy, but you can pull this up on the internet. Google the people in Mali who are connected to the Dogon that have web feet. You can pull pictures up of them. Their feet look like the webs of like water bands. And I'm just telling you, I'm not saying to accept all this, but they're saying because they mixed in with these beings that came from the water, this is what it produced genetically. And there's pictures. They have, if you look at their feet, you'll see. So you come to that conclusion. I'm not telling people to accept everything again that I'm saying, but I'm saying there's information out there for you to pull up and draw that conclusion. Okay. All right. Ken says, what's the difference between the void, abyss, and the darkness? They're connected. They're different because they're three different stages, right? Darkness has different stages to it, right? The void is when you're going, for an example, when you look at the Qliphoth and the Sitra Achra, that is going through the void to get to the abyss, right? And the abyss has different levels of darkness, right? They're just different stages, but in essence, they are all connected in the sense that we're dealing with. When you look at, and the best way to see that example is if you understand the difference between the Qabalistic tree and the Qliphothic tree. So when you go through that 11 Qliph, you're going through the void. So the void is the doorway to the abyss. And in that, the abyss, there's never-ending darkness. And that's why I say there's different stages of darkness. I even liken it to the lessons of the 120, or what the NOI calls triple stage darkness, but they never really explain it, right? So it's one of those things where they're connected. They're not all quite the same, but they're connected. That's the simplistic way I can explain it. Cuckoo Minu says, in the context of UFOs and aliens, what do you think about the concepts of Jax Valley and Jose Antonio Carpaccio? That means that there are no aliens. There's some unknown force manifesting today. Again, so I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with those two guys' works. So I don't really know. So I can't comment in the context of their work. The second part, though, that you say means that there are no aliens. There's some unknown force manifesting today. I can't really speak to that because I don't know what perspective they were coming from. I don't know if somebody believes in some unknown force manifesting today, how does that differ from somebody who believes that there's going to be a rapture, or somebody who believes that we're going to be invaded by some type of outside force of aliens? So I think that puts us back into the realm of spook and belief. Now, I'm not saying these two guys that you're mentioning here were coming from that concept. I don't know. So I would have to do a little more research on them. So I can't speak in reference to what they were saying. But the way you wrote it there, I don't know if I necessarily agree that that if they're trying to impose upon people to believe that there's some unknown force manifesting today, I think we're right back to religion. That sounds a little spooky to me. Okay. That's a good point there. The same force over the centuries, wearing different masks, adapting to our perception. Yeah. Okay. Amber says some people say Lamastu and Lilith are the same. I experienced them differently. I haven't gotten much info on the differences. What are your findings? Well, when you look with the connection with Lilith and Ishtar and Lamastu, when you go into some of the ancient Sumerian teachings, you are correct. They're not completely identically the same. Is there some synchronations with them? Yes. Now you have to understand this. Remember, whether we're talking about Lilith, Lucifer, Belial, any of these gods, goddesses, or entities, remember, they had the ability to manifest in different cultures in different periods of time. Just like you are, and you're coming to the realization of it, they are etheric or beings of light and energy that can take on any shape or form. So there is no time frame on them. There is no age to put upon them. And that's why I tell people, stop, for an example, taking Lilith, and everybody always immediately equates her origin to the Garden of Eden story, which is comical to me. Lilith goes back way before that. That was one of her many manifestations during that period that you're talking about, which really is pre-Bible and has nothing to do with the Bible. That's a whole nother story. But you can't put a beginning and ending on these bands, just like you can't put a beginning and ending on you. And this is why I always say people get confused that you have always been here. People don't understand what I mean when I say that. See, the mundane self doesn't get it because the mundane self thinks whatever your name is, I'm Jane Smith. I'm born March 11th, 1984. You've told yourself in your mind that that's the origin of your existence, and it's not. Okay? Just like when people try to do that to the demigods or the gods and the goddesses and the demons, it's not either. Stop trying to put a beginning on them. Okay? It'll help you greater understand what you're working with. You're working with something that's irrelevant from time immemorial. It doesn't exist. Okay? Xander says that whole Mary Magdalene prostitute thing always baffled me because Jesus himself indulged in a lot of things people refuse to talk about. Yeah, 100%. Amrit says, can you use your birth name as a magical name? Only if it makes sense. I mean, it would have to make sense. That would really have to make sense, right? I don't know how most of our English given names, yes, some of them are derived from certain origins, but long story short, yes, you can use anything you want. But again, it needs to fit those things and descriptions that we talked about earlier. Okay. Stephen J, I don't know. That's a very vague question. Could be multiple reasons. Says I reached out to a demon, but it fucks with my head a lot. Why is he doing that? I don't know who he is, right? I don't know what demon you've reached out to. So you'd have to start there. To just ask a vague question like that, I couldn't give you an answer. I mean, there's many reasons why if a demon could do that, right? One, maybe you're not prepared. Maybe you've invoked something where your psyche is not receptive to that energy and it can cause psychic and mental disturbances. That's usually a telltale sign or reasons for that. It's the best I can tell you. Aaron, that's a good answer to Xander, so I'll leave that there. Yep, they go after the most vulnerable. All right. I think we at the bend. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Again, if you need to reach out to me, readings, consultations, you want to sign up for classes, go to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti tier 3. That's the tier you want to join. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Again, the Black Magic Essentials 101 one-day workshop and seminar. I'll be posting that the date. It'll be definitely more than likely be on a Saturday for sure. Tomorrow I will be posting all the new Patreon content along with the July working for Azili Dan Tour. For those of you who have been doing the working, going on month 7, it's been a journey. It's gonna come to full head in a few months. You'll see where we're going with it. So all the new Patreon content for the Patreon members, that'll be up some point tomorrow. Azili Dan Tour working will be up. Information for the Black Magic Essentials 101 seminar. You'll be able to sign up for that immediately once I put the information up. Other than that, look, I appreciate you guys. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Infernal blessings and all that good shit. And we'll talk soon. Oh, Shama, happy. Thank you. I appreciate the belated birthday. All right. We'll talk about that. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to get to know my channel. Any suggestions on how to we'll talk. That's something. Send me an email. We'll address that. Yes. All right. I appreciate everybody. I'm out of here. Infernal blessings. Be safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll try to post some short tutorial videos throughout the week and try to get back on here on the live. All right. Appreciate every one of you guys. Thank you. Infernal blessings.